Hi, Guy. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Nicole. How you doing?
Awesome. 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 I'm good. I want to get right into this. I know you work, there's so many fields in within coaching, but you focus on executive coaching. You look at the whole person, and I know limiting beliefs, dealing with all kinds of stuff is as a challenge for all of us, right? So I want to get into starting off with burnout. Like, how do you know individuals are burned out? Like, what do you start to see in those people?
Uh, they they may not identify as having burnout, and definitely not going to diagnose them, but there are certain patterns I'm seeing in a lot of people. Um, they're exhausted.
Hmm.
They're completely drained. They've lost a lot of that spirit and life force in them. They're more cynical, negative, critical. They're not as productive or efficient with their work anymore, and they're starting to not care, and it's disturbing them and upsetting them.
Hmm.
And we're talking about ways to recognize that, to take care of themselves in different ways. And it's not necessarily all about just the work. It's about some of their patterns, some of their the ways that they live their life, or the way they be who they are.
Hmm.
Also in personal relationships. So
Right.
these things straddle both spheres.
Right. That you can't separate anything, right? And I think in business, we want to separate the two. And it's just you're one person. You're not like two people. That's a really big
Exactly.
point. And it's scary for people, right? Because they position themselves into, oh, I'm just going to focus on the business, but really other things creep in. So, and they don't even know it. So as a
Right.
professional, how do you help people with recognizing it? And then, of course, dealing with those limiting thoughts or beliefs that keep them stuck exactly where they are.
One of the things that we start looking at is where are their drains, where are their gains, where are they losing their energy and motivation and feelings of engagement, um, and where in their life are they filling up on that energy, what is fulfilling and meaningful and enriching for them, and possibly they're not doing that anymore. So we're helping them become more aware of their patterns, their thoughts, their behaviors. And through this process, they're coming to know themselves better. And one area that we talk about a lot, it comes up a lot, I hear a lot about it, and it definitely appears in our work, is boundaries. And
Mm-hmm.
it's such an important topic. I think it may be glossed over or looked at as almost like a cliche, like, yeah, you need boundaries. But for the person who has difficulty, like a
Mm-hmm.
boundary challenged person, it's really hard to know what those are, to understand them, to know how to, define them and assert them. And even that is a word that's difficult or challenging for some. So when I ask them that question, like, well, what do you know about boundaries? What's your experience with boundaries? And if they start sharing things like, I have none, um, I let people contact me at all hours. I have some clients who are basically waking up really early, and they're on the West Coast. They're dealing with East Coast times. They're answering emails at 5 in the morning. Some of them are answering emails or on calls across the world past 11 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Some are getting messaged on vacation, some even in the hospital
Oh my God.
and in
Yeah.
recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And it's upsetting, it's distressing, and they know it and they keep doing it. And that's where they're wondering, like, something else has got to change. I don't need just a list, like someone's, some trainer tell me what to do, or some course to tell me this is what you have to do. I understand what to do. I don't know how to do it. Why can't I do it? So
Mm-hmm.
that's where we take our work and work on it bit by bit, building this awareness and recognizing this is the way things are. coming to understand why they might do it, and we can get into that more, or why they don't have boundaries, and
Mm-hmm.
other patterns that show up in common with a lot of people who have difficulty with boundaries, and to come to more acceptance that, yeah, this is a challenge for them, and to have compassion for themselves, and uh, to be on their own side and want to start working on it, and to believe that they can actually achieve a positive outcome with this, and the world won't come crashing down on them, which brings in the topic of limiting beliefs. That's what's behind a lot of these patterns.
Yeah, yeah. It's difficult because people do what they know how to do or what they go to, what they're used to, but maybe what they're used to isn't the best thing. And
Yes.
right, like I'll give you an extreme example. Somebody growing up with like two drug addict parents, right?
Hmm.
Well, that individual grew up in that environment, so they may not know simple things that we're discussing right now.
That's
It's like
right.
a challenge for them, right? Or somebody else in a different environment is going to face different challenges. So for the everyday person, certain things might look easy. And then for others, it's like, well, no, it's not that easy for me, right?
Yes.
So I understand what you're saying. So let's talk about limiting beliefs. What are some examples of limiting beliefs? What are some
Yeah.
examples?
So, yeah. Let's say that if I set a boundary, if I am assertive,
Mm-hmm.
people won't like me. They'll get mad at me, and I won't be
Okay.
able to handle that. So it's an automatic, very quick judgment inside. It's like an inner, nope, not going to do that.
Right.
As if I do, it's going
XYZ
to be
is going
a
to happen.
XYZ for sure going to happen. And they
Mm-hmm.
don't even challenge or question that. They don't even recognize that's a belief. It's just fact for
It's
them.
automatic. That's
Yeah.
really, really scary. And then for somebody like yourself to present options would be super scary. So that's where like the trust really has to come in, right?
Yeah, they have to trust me. They have to trust themselves in this space, and to know that nothing is forced, and that we're going to take our time with it and work. Better to have understanding and compassion for yourself and take a small, meaningful step, than to try and force and fake something, like a really big move. All of a sudden, I'm learning boundaries, and I'm exercising them everywhere. It may be way too overwhelming. It's
Right.
too big a mountain to climb. Bit by bit, we undo these limiting beliefs, not just through this like logic alone, but through experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, we're going to work on one, and let's say fast forward. Maybe I'll ask you about any challenges you may have, and we'll see what we may uncover. Maybe this isn't the right venue for it, but we'll get there
That's
if we get
okay.
there.
I'm your pupil today. That's
Oh,
okay.
fantastic.
Well, we all have limiting beliefs. We all want to get better, right? I've had, situations where I thought, no, there's no way I can do this. There's just no way. I'll give you like a different example, right? Fitness, right?
Mm,
I had back surgery growing up. And I thought that, you know what? I can't do this because I was told if you do this exercise, you're going to fall and you're going to hurt yourself and you're going to be in the hospital and something bad's going to happen to you. So for years, I thought, well, I can't do certain things, but there's so much I can do. But when you're hammered, don't do this, don't do that, don't, like, out of fear, you carry that fear with you. And
yes,
I
that's
and it's bad because then you're limiting what you actually can do, but you don't give yourself that chance. So that would be like an example for
it's a
me right
perfect parallel, a really effective parallel. So imagine the person who learned mistakes are bad.
now. Exactly.
And they made a mistake, they got punished, scolded, humiliated, embarrassed, made fun of, and that stuck. And they're like,
Mhm.
they learned the lesson, embraced the lesson. Maybe their household embraced and hammered in mistakes are bad, never make mistakes, always check your work, always work harder and harder and harder. And some of us became perfectionists. Some of us were striving to get everything right, never make a mistake, never risk embarrassment. So why not just put in more work and more work and more work, or avoid taking some chances that may involve making some kind of mistake. We can't be, excellent, masterful at the start of
Yes.
something. So we have to make mistakes along the way. But if we learn mistakes are bad and gruesome and horrible, we're going to develop perfectionism. Some of us will. And it's going to, in some areas, help us,
Hmm.
right? These are survival mechanisms, they're coping
That's
mechanisms.
right.
They had some adaptive quality to them that helped us get by in the circumstances we were in, but they stuck. And
Yes.
now they're automatic and overriding what could possibly emerge and come from us naturally as adults. I'm approaching 50 and I still have some automatic thoughts, and they're not even thoughts, they're feelings, they're impulses.
Hmm.
And I may avoid certain things or have that recognition that I'm about to avoid something that could be scary or risky, and employing the same rationale I had when I was 8. And then I remind myself, you're a big boy now.
That's
Even
right.
if you did make a mistake,
It's
you'd
funny,
survive.
you go right back to that age where you face that trauma or difficulty for sure, every
Yeah.
time, for sure.
And we may not even realize this happens sometimes. We made a promise to
Hmm.
ourselves, like, never again. I'm never
Exactly.
doing that. And we didn't really think it would stick for the next 40 years or so. But those promises, those vows that we made, they do stick. And it ends up blocking us from so much. I wonder, what did you miss out on by believing that you couldn't do things because of your back? What
Oh my
what
God, it was horrible.
experiences
Yeah,
did you
it's
miss?
exactly. It's you're just afraid to do, like, I just remember, like, with kids younger, they would go on, field trips and go skiing,
Uh,
downhill skiing. That just came to my mind right now. Or like just events. You're like, well, no, I got to be careful. I got to be cautious. And then that translates into other areas of your life too. Well, I've got to be cautious here on a personal front. I got to be cautious here on a professional front. You don't realize it because the I can't factor starts to trickle off in different areas, and it's a struggle. So I always say it's like you're struggling against yourself, really, at the end of the day,
yes,
right? You have the current self, you have the past self, and you're struggling, and it's so damn uncomfortable
it
sometimes,
really is. It's
right?
suffering. It's
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
suffering for a lot of people. And when you really think about it, for some people, it's going to affect their personal lives, their families, people without asserting boundaries may take on way too much work and always be on call and neglect,
And I think
unfortunately.
boundaries as well, like you're taking on other people's issues. You think maybe, let's say you grew up in an environment where everyone had issues. So you're going to be more susceptible to take on other people's loads where that's not your business to take
Do you
on.
mean like them
Here,
sharing and dumping things on you and being
that
the
could be
listener?
extreme. That could be extreme, but I think more like it's subtle. Like they don't even know they're doing it and you don't even know you're doing it, right? And I'm speaking from experience when I say this too. So I really understand. It's really like your background has taught you things, whether they're the right things or the wrong things, or sometimes like a salad, I call it, of both, right? And then you
Yeah.
have to like pick the parts out of the salad that just don't make any sense,
Yeah,
right?
and don't help now. I like to think about it as like effective, ineffective, or workable, unworkable, helpful, unhelpful. Instead of right or wrong, good or bad, some things in some situations are good and others they're bad. So instead, thinking about like, does this work? Does this help me? I brought this, adopted this from something called ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy. Um, is it a towards move or an away move? Is this
Oh,
move helping me
okay.
move towards my values, towards the kind of person I want to be, the kind of life I want to create? Or is this behavior or action is more avoidance based, away from those values, away from who I want to be, and away from discomfort? And that's why I'm choosing it. So when
Right,
we end up making a lot of away moves, they're not so workable. They don't help us in our lives today. They may protect that part of us that suffered or learned or was conditioned early
mhm,
on, but today it's not helping us create that life. So a lot of us can get very stuck, and sometimes that's where coaching starts. People
interesting.
feel very stuck. I hear the expression, I'm at a crossroads. I have choices to make. I don't know what I want. And when I
Mhm,
start hearing, I don't know what I want, it makes me think back to, it was probably dangerous at some point to really know what you needed, know what you wanted, and assert it and be clear about it, because it either infringed on others, hurt others, made them mad, and you just learned it's not safe. It's not
right,
safe to be who I am, know what I want, and go
right.
for it. Um, and so we develop some patterns to help us cope with that, like people pleasing is another
Yes,
one that's
yes.
all connected in here. Caring about and valuing the needs of others over our own
Mhm,
almost all the time, and never making it about us, and just being, a pleaser and appeaser. And it's
right,
hard to even recognize in oneself. It may relate to some of our best qualities, and things that other people love about us. But if we can never, like, I mean, never express what we want or need, and never say anything that we're, let's say, not happy with and don't want, we're not being authentic. We're not being real. It's a shame to us, and it's a loss for us. It's a loss for others.
right, right. Oh my God. This touches me because it's
Mm,
so true. It hits home, right? On so many levels. And I like what you said. It's either a forward move or a backward move.
mm.
Because how many times have I been at a crossroads? And it is exactly how you phrase it. Either you choose to grow or you choose to stick with what you know. And while it might feel good, it's not, you're going to confront the same thing over and over again, versus if you choose a path that's a little bit scary but better for you, that's when you're going to
Exactly.
grow.
Exactly. Yes.
And
And
it's
they
very
could
scary
be,
sometimes.
it is so scary. I know it firsthand.
Me too.
Making these small little meaningful moves
Yeah,
may not seem like a big deal, but it is a big deal, because we make
yeah,
that move. It doesn't even have to, quote unquote, succeed. We just make the move that's a success, and we get a fuller feeling, fulfillment. We get some positive experience from it, and hopefully we can let that sink in and let
mhm,
it be like a reference point. Like, look, you did that thing, you made that move, it worked out, it didn't work out, but guess what, you survived, you feel good about it. It feels like a relief to just be who you are, and it's something you want to build on. It's encouraging and motivating, instead of grueling it, pushing yourself, forcing yourself, and then being like, I did it but I never want to do it again.
right.
These positive values based moves are ones that we do want to repeat and build on
Yes. And
naturally.
because this is a sales channel, I'm gonna close off
Right.
with one question. You know, if an individual does this work, imagine what can happen in their professional life, right? Like
Absolutely.
imagine. And so the question is like, how can somebody grow their business, grow their sales if they work in an organization, if they are hitting these uncomfortable points, right? And just dealing with those things. That's like priceless. I guess that question is really a statement. It's no longer a question, right? But I could just imagine like so many doors could open just from doing this kind of work. So thanks, guys. So tell me, what is the best place for people to reach you?
Find me at my website, HeartRich.ca, and I'm on LinkedIn. So if my name is there, people will easily find me, connect with me, and if they're interested in talking about working together, please get in touch, and I'd love to offer you a complimentary consultation.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It's been a delight and an honor. Thanks, Nicole.